coast of Costa Rica. And I've spent the last 5 years setting up a kind of biological preserve.
What kind of park is this?
Hello, welcome to the Damian and Devlin show. This is our review for Jurassic Park, the 1993 adventure film directed by Steven Spielberg, starring Sam Neill, Laura Dern,
Jeff Goldblum,
Richard Attenborough, and plenty of others. And the rest, anyhow. This is... Do you want to start again? Sorry.
No.
Oh, okay, we're good.
It's
Okay.
fine,
We'll
fine.
keep the humor in it.
Yeah.
Anyhow, Damian picked this movie. This is one of his all-time
Absolutely.
favorite movies. As you can see, he's all decked out. He's even looking like Ian Malcolm, who is the Jeff Goldblum character, for people who don't know.
Life finds a way. Chaos theory. It's the theory that is unpredictable. You just never really know what's gonna happen.
Thank you for that. This movie, of course, came out in 1993, and if you haven't never heard of it, even if you have never seen it, most people have heard of it because it is such a huge movie. This movie became a phenomenal. It got people back interested in dinosaurs, though I think their dinosaurs never really go out of style, but this put them right back in the forefront. Basically, Richard Attenborough plays John Hammond, a man who has an idea. He finds a way to make dinosaurs, and he comes up with a way to want to build a park, and he has a whole bunch of people coming in after a lawsuit to try to get them to endorse it. And well, they see lots of dinosaurs and they see a lot of chaos, and that is the bare minimum of what this is about, and that's not doing it justice because this movie is phenomenal. When I first saw this movie, actually, I'll let you talk about why you chose this, besides being your favorite movie, before I tell my story.
Well, it's not my favorite movie.
What are your favorite
It's one of
movies?
my favorite movies of all time. But you know what? I remember the very first time I ever saw this movie. Geez, this came out in '93 in theaters, but I remember seeing it for the very first time in 1995. I was 4 years old at the time, and I remember specifically being in a convenience store with my mom, and the VHS tape was actually at the front counter of the convenience store. It was black, and it had the red logo, just like on my shirt up here. And it was just so appealing to me. I'd never heard of it before. I'd never seen commercials. And I said, hey, Mom, can you buy that for me? And you know what? It was one of those moments where she was feeling generous, so she bought it for me. And I watched it when I got home, and I immediately fell in love. I wanted to learn more about dinosaurs. I became obsessed. And you're absolutely right. From a kid's perspective, it was pretty much everywhere. And like, I remember seeing McDonald's commercials for it. I remember seeing commercials for Jeep, the vehicle manufacturing company. Ford, of course, with the Ford Explorers. It was everywhere, and it basically became Dinomania. And it started a whole huge franchise that continues to this day. And I just absolutely love dinosaurs. I love the characters in this movie. I love the idea behind a dinosaur theme park. I mean, here in Canada, we have a place called Canada's Wonderland. And for a brief period of time, in fact, I think they're actually still doing it, there's a section of Canada's Wonderland where you can walk through like this dinosaur area, and they're all animatronics, but it's just so awesome. And just to imagine that these creatures roamed the earth however many millions of years ago is just astonishing. So I absolutely adore this movie.
When I first saw this movie, I was slightly older. I saw it in its
Slightly.
theatrical...
Slightly.
Hey, be good. I saw this in its original theatrical run. I went to the drive-in to see this opening weekend because everybody was raving about it already. And I remember, I love the drive-in. It's one of my obsessions. But sometimes some movies don't translate to the drive-in because they're too dark. And one of my favorite all-time sequences, actually very dark in this movie. So when I came out seeing it, I said, what's the big fuss about? There's nothing great about that. A week later, my friend Dave, who had happened to be at the drive-in with me, said, why don't we check it out again? And I swear I was like watching a whole new movie. What was just, Within 1 week, I saw it on the big screen at a movie theater, and I just absolutely adored this movie. I thought
chaos.
it was
You never know.
crazy. I went from meh to, oh my god, that was amazing, all because I saw it in the proper place to see it.
Movies find a way.
They do. And so I've been a fan of Jurassic Park for some time. It wasn't my favorite movie of the year that particular year, but it certainly was up there. And why don't we get into your favorites? Your likes, your favorites.
My likes, my positives.
Your positives.
My favorites. Well, first and foremost, I think the original Jurassic Park cast is absolutely awesome. You have Sam Neill playing Alan Grant. You have Laura Dern playing, I'm drawing a blank now. Ellie Sattler. Ellie Sattler. And then you have, of course, Lex, Tim, John Hammond, and my personal favorite, my main man, Jeff Goldblum, with Ian Malcolm. And you know what? As a kid, I liked Alan a lot. I thought Alan was so cool. He was level-headed. He saved the kids. He was the hero of the story. But as an adult, I kind of grew attached to the eccentricities that Jeff Goldblum, I'm getting so excited speaking about him, brings to Ian Malcolm. Now, the character Ian Malcolm recently just appeared in Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, and he's not the same Ian Malcolm that he was back in this original movie. He was more eccentric, he was more personality driven, and I even made a comment, I miss that Ian Malcolm. I'm one of the few people that actually enjoys the second Jurassic Park, The Lost World, and I like it very much so because, I know you just twitched there, didn't you? Get out of here. But I like it because Ian Malcolm is the central focus on that. I just like his viewpoints, I like what he brings. So the cast aside, I mean, you got Wayne Knight in there, who is essentially the main villain of the movie if you put a certain perspective on it, besides certain dinosaurs. You got Samuel L. Jackson. You actually made me laugh because you're like, it's Samuel L. Jackson in one of his quietest film roles. Because, yeah, he's there, but barely.
But he says, hold on to your butts.
Hold on to your butts.
That's just as awesome.
So, I please forgive me, but I don't know the actor's name, but the game warden. I think he's so cool. And he, as well, for a long time, I was like, is he one of my favorite characters? Yes. Yes, he is, because he's just so calm. He's so awesome. He's a badass, basically. I know the actor's passed away since, but I cannot remember his name for the life of me, so please forgive me on that. Script. I mean, hello, my dream. Getting on a helicopter, flying to a tropical island full of dinosaurs as a theme park. Like, what an awesome script. Of course, it wouldn't be a movie if everything went perfectly. Like, that would be more of a documentary or, I guess, a tourism video. But I always feel sad at the end of the movie. I'm not going to say why, but I always feel sad at the end of the movie because Jurassic Park is my dream. And I hope one day I get to live through something like that because I would die to see a dinosaur. I think they're so awesome. So that, I mean, talking about Jurassic World, 4 sequels, or 3 sequels later, and they actually have another park going on the same island, and it's just everything that I ever wanted as a kid growing up. So I think it's an awesome premise, an awesome idea. Iconic imagery, I mean, the whole T-Rex sequence in the middle of the movie, the raptors, I mean, the velociraptors in real life are nowhere compared to the velociraptors in the movie, but you say velociraptor and the raptors from this movie are exactly what everybody thinks about. Awesome stuff. I mean, just shots after shot of amazing stuff. I said to Devlin that, you know, it still looks amazing to this day. Like, yes, there is CGI in there, but the CGI is so well blended with the animatronics made by Stan Winston that they're just awesome to look at. And the moment where the characters see a dinosaur for the very first time is still one of the most magical moments in any movie I've ever seen in my entire life. And it's still, to this day, over 20 years later, looks amazing. And that is really difficult to do, especially considering this movie was put in production, pre-production, post-production, 1992 for a release in 1993. And we're talking about it in 2018 and talking about how good it looks. That's got to say something for it. And then we were actually having this discussion again. You've heard us talk about it already so many times with other reviews that we've done, but John Williams is iconic. His soundtrack in this, honestly, is my favorite soundtrack to any movie ever. I love this soundtrack so much that when I'm going through a rough time, when I'm upset, or you know what, maybe I just need help falling asleep, sometimes I will listen to it. It's so magical, it's so calming, it brings me to a place where I know that I'd be happy. I just cannot say enough about the music in this movie because it makes you feel danger, it makes you feel excited, it drives the emotion right behind the movie. So Steven Spielberg and John Williams, again, they join hand in hand and they make a masterpiece. Well, I could go on for hours talking about this movie.
Yeah, you took a lot of my positives, and I'm glad you did, because it shows how wonderful this movie is. I'll try to hit on a couple things you didn't, but I agree with everything. The cast, the music is phenomenal. One of my favorite scores. John Williams will always be remembered for so many iconic things, and Jurassic Park is right up there with them. When I hear that opening theme, I get just heart palpitations because it's just feel good. I don't think Steven Spielberg got enough love from Damian, so I'm going to go on to that because I tend to go on about the directors. We have been lucky to start seeing some Spielberg, once we started running out of James Cameron movies. We've seen Jaws and we've seen Saving Private Ryan, and this is one of his best films. Like, we have seen 3 of, in my opinion, best films. And this, the more I think about it, this is probably one of my favorite films by him. And because it's just, there's so many iconic scenes. Everything looks so beautiful. And as you said, the CGI still looks wonderful. Like, you're absolutely right. That moment when you see the first dinosaurs is powerful. It's not even my favorite scene in the movie, but there's so many scenes that are close to my favorite scene in the movie. It reminds me of another iconic film. You might want to put your hands over your eyes.
Oh, no. My eyes.
Yeah,
what are you going to say?
It's one of the best introductions, and it reminds me of when Dorothy goes to Oz. When she opens it, but you even said you didn't hate that scene.
I didn't hate that scene.
And when she opens the door and you're taken into the color world of Oz, and it reminds me of that. And since Wizard of Oz has lasted over 75, 80 years, I think Jurassic Park will definitely have that same longevity. Storyboarding in this, the action sequences are incredible. He directed all of the Raiders of the Lost Ark movie, and people rave about the action sequences. I think Jurassic Park's action sequences are even more incredible than that. Yes, I said it for you Raiders and Indiana Jones fans. I love those movies, all of them. But the T-Rex sequence alone, I'd love to see the storyboards. Just every little idea he comes up with is just so delicious watching it. And it goes on and on. I actually had to go to the bathroom at the start, and I couldn't find a good place to go because I didn't want to miss a thing, and I didn't want to freeze it. I didn't want to freeze it because I was in the moment. So I said, no, I'm going to just... Too much information. I'm going to hold it until we get to the end of this.
We've all been there.
The T-Rex introduction is one of the best character introductions. You mentioned Bond a couple of reviews ago. I mentioned that this T-Rex introduction is a phenomenal way to introduce him. You think you know what a dinosaur looks like, but his introduction still is mind-blowing.
She's a girl. She's a girl.
Well, I'm sorry.
Her name is Rexy.
And as I said, I agree with pretty much everything else you see, so we'll leave it there because you gloated enough, and I would just be doing the same thing. All the actors really good. I know some people say the kids are irritating. I never found that.
I don't agree with
that. I
that
actually
either.
find them very realistic. I know
Very much
many
so.
movies where they're very Hollywood. I don't see that in this movie.
And you know what? I will, as I said, I was a fan of the second one, The Lost World, and the kid in that I can't stand. I'm going to say that now. So when you watch our review of one day of The Lost World, you already know one of my negatives is going to be the kid in that movie. As well, the kids in the Jurassic World. Don't like them either. But Lex and Tim, So Joe Mazzello, don't know the actress's name that played Lex.
Oh, yeah, I can't remember
I
it.
don't think she went on to much else actor-wise, but
Yeah.
I think that they both did a very good job of portraying realistic reactions as children in this kind of situation. They didn't feel Hollywood, they didn't feel forced, and I don't find them aggravating at all. So anybody out there that thinks that Lex and Tim are one of the worst things about this movie, can't relate to you at all.
Before you get to your negatives, I do have to give a shout out to, I've been a fan of Jeff Goldblum's for a long time, but this is one of his sexier movies. I don't know, there's something about his leather jacket, and then he has this moment that comes out that I call like the Top Gun volleyball scene. He's hurt and he's back at the compound, and for some reason they just have him sitting all bronze with his top open, and I've never had more feelings and stirrings for Jeff Goldblum in my life. And shout out to Steven Spielberg. I almost felt it was contractually obligated for him to get a really handsome, sexy scene in this movie, because it really stands out. And I remember seeing it a couple times at theaters where people would start whooping and hollering because it's just, it's funny. It's,
Absolutely.
even they did a pop vinyl of it because of the fact
I own
because it is funny and it's such an iconic moment. It's just, why is this here? And we don't care. It's great.
It's wonderful, absolutely fantastic.
Do you have any negatives on
I
this
do
movie?
have a couple of negatives, and you know what? Some of these negatives have developed over time because I have watched this movie to death. I know every single scene, I know every single line of dialogue, and some people might be sitting there saying, well, Damian, why do you continue to watch it if you already know everything about it and you know what people are going to say and what they're going to do? You know what? Because I can still get myself lost in a movie. But you know what? The dangers of doing that are sometimes you notice things over time. So for the first example, when I first saw it as a kid, I didn't notice a lot of the mistakes that I do now as an adult, 500 or so odd viewings later. First and foremost, there's a scene where Dennis Nedry, played by Wayne Knight, he's talking to a contact of his at a dock, and he's talking to him through the computer. And he's got the headset on, and it makes it look like they're having a real-time conversation. Very ahead of its time, except for the fact that the conversation is on a pre-recorded video. And the way that you can tell this is because there's the little slider going by as far as the video starts to play on who he's supposed to be talking to in real time on the computer. So that right there is a negative for me, because how we are with technology in this day and age, you can't not see it. I can forgive it back in the day because, I mean, this came out in '93. Not everybody had a computer back then, so I can forgive the ignorance there. But in 2018, there's just no excuse for that. A couple other negatives I do have. During the T-Rex sequence, there is a potted plant that is just there in the background. It's supposed to be a tree that's been knocked over, but it's quite clearly a potted plant. And you will not see this upon first glance. It's so fast, and you're just so enthralled with the Tyrannosaurus that, again, you won't see it unless you're specifically looking for it. So it's there, and I can't not see it. The first time somebody pointed it out to me, it's just there, and it's fine. It's whatever. It's not a big thing, but it is there. I do have a couple other negatives, but they're passing me by right now. So
Oh, you had the erasing.
Oh yeah, so Henry Wu, he's the lead scientist at Jurassic Park, and it shows the main group of characters. They go into the science area where they witness eggs and how they make the dinosaur DNA and whatnot. And it goes to very great lengths to show that it's a sanitary environment, gloves on the doctors or the scientists. It's clean. Yet there's Henry Wu with a pencil. Then he erases what he wrote down and onto the floor. What the hell are you doing? Like, no wonder you become like the bad guy in Jurassic World. You're awful. You're already sabotaging your own kind of... It bothers me every time I see him do that. So
I didn't even notice it. He told me. I've
Yeah.
seen this movie, not as many as him, but I've seen it probably 10, 12 times, and I never really caught that.
yeah, so that bothers me quite a bit. I do have... There's another... It's not necessarily a negative. It's more of me wanting to quell some concerns other people might have, so I'm going to let you go first.
Okay, I actually, if you asked me back in '93, I actually had not a lot of negatives, but a couple. One, I never understood why they would bring someone like Ian Malcolm in, but as I get older and I watch, I actually understand it now, and it makes a lot of sense. In fact, I find myself actually really enjoying the quotes that Ian Malcolm says, because I think they speak volumes not only to the situation but the world. In fact, I never even knew chaos theorist was a thing. But I kind of wanted to be more interested in it now, because now as I've lived my life so much, I see how the world works this way. So that's not really negative anymore. I actually respect the character and I like it. My only problem I used to have with this was the old computers.
Oh, come on, it's
the
not
CGI.
fair.
No, but you always go on about, but this isn't anymore. Like, the CGI still holds up. I've seen movies that came out 2 years ago where the CGI is already looking faded, but this is still phenomenal. But then you get these old, like, computers that look like, I don't even think they would have been top of the line when
they totally
in '93.
They
But
totally were.
you know what? I am a movie fan who can look at things now and say this took place in '93. So I don't look at that. So I really don't have any negatives anymore. I see this movie for what it was, and what I can tell you is every time I see it, I love this movie more. As I said, this was not my favorite movie back in '93. I liked a movie better called Strictly Ballroom, which I absolutely adore, and I will make you watch at some point. But as I watch it, I find myself falling in love more and more with this movie.
Absolutely. And so here's a couple things I want to quell for a few people. The biggest complaint I get from this movie with people that just have seen it maybe once, twice, but they still enjoy it. But the biggest complaint they get is, how did the car fall down a huge pit when the T-Rex was quite clearly shown walking through on an even level? And you know what? I questioned that myself for a great length of time. So let me set the scene here for you without giving away too many spoilers. There's a car here and a car here. T-Rex enters the scene between the two cars. The lead car here is pushed over the ledge over here, right? So over here, where the T-Rex enters, is flat land. But then you can even see it later when Ellie and the game warden go to look for certain characters. There is a decline or incline that leads down over there, which explains the gap. Obviously, you wouldn't notice this upon first viewing, but when the cars first enter that area as well, you can see the trees, they kind of rise, as if, again, there's an incline and a dip in the land. So that's where the gap comes from, first and foremost. Secondly, there's a big, they call it a goof, essentially when in the kitchen scene near the end, when the Velociraptor comes into the kitchen, people say they see a hand pushing the raptor into the kitchen. It's not a hand. And I'm going to tell you why. If you look carefully, yeah, sure, it does look like somebody's hand pushing the raptor into the kitchen. It's the raptor's tail. And people don't realize that it's the raptor's tail behind it. It just looks like a hand, but it's not. So there you go. I quelled those theories. Hopefully, it makes the film a little bit more enjoyable for you. One thing I really am disappointed, this has nothing to do with the movie at all. The kid at the beginning that Alan Grant absolutely traumatizes with the raptor claw, I really wish that theory that he becomes Chris Pratt's character in Jurassic World was true, because it would make so much sense. But it's already been gone on to state that he's not. So that's a really disappointing thing for me. What are you going to give this movie?
You want my numbers first?
Yeah.
As I said, if you asked me in '93, I probably would have gone 4.5. But I'm going to give this movie.
You say you did not like it in '93, and you're going to give it a 4.5 in '93.
I said I loved it. I just wasn't my favorite movie.
You went from not liking it or meh to liking it.
Yeah,
Okay,
I said you're glad you listen.
I do.
Glad our watchers listen to me. I am going to give this movie 5 stars.
Wow.
The more I see this movie, I love it. I just love so many images of it, and just when I think I've seen it, another image pops up that I said, brilliant. I think this is one of Steven Spielberg's best, and I believe I've given him 5 stars on all 3 movies we've given him, because Saving Private Ryan, I think I even went up to 5 stars after seeing it. So 5 stars for me, Jurassic Park.
Right on, right on. So I love this movie to death. I think it's fantastic. I've seen it more times than I'd like to admit, and even though I notice mistakes here and there, it does not take away from the magic of this movie. I still lose myself in it every single time, and I cannot say enough about the soundtrack. So I think this is the first time that we're actually both gonna give this a 5-star movie. Am I right on that?
Maybe not. I don't know.
Maybe not.
I don't know.
Well, we're both
We'll have to
giving it
see.
5 stars. Both giving it 5 stars. It's a fantastic movie. Definitely a must-see. And that's it.
That's it.
That's
That's
it.
it.
That's it. You never tell what's going to go on with us. That's chaos. That's chaos theory. So thank you so much for joining us. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Check the links down below as well for Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Whatever you want, we got it. We appreciate you. Thank you so much. And make sure that you tune in next week because you never know where we're going to end up next.
When we have control
You
again.
never have control. That's the illusion.
Boy, do I hate being right all the time.